everyone has a right to feel safe on our streets. And at times when I look back at instances where I've had unwanted attention or I've been in a situation where something's happened, I know people have turned a blind eye. I know people haven't intervened, and what that could have done for me in that moment could have been very different.
This is The Summit by Fearless Adventures. I'm Dominic McGregor, and every week my co-founder David Newns and I will be talking to inspirational leaders about their experiences as they strive towards their summit.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining The Summit. It's hosted here by Fearless Adventures. We're on a mission to talk to amazing entrepreneurs that are on a journey to a summit. Maybe they're on that journey, maybe they've reached it, maybe they're on a journey to a new summit. And today we're here with Emma, the founder of WalkSafe, one of our investments and our portfolio companies. WalkSafe is on a mission to disrupt and challenge the way people think about personal safety and to ensure that everyone's journeys are as safe as they possibly can be. So a super privilege to have you here, Emma, today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. So exciting. Really grateful to be here.
So take us back kind of to the beginning of your career. How did you start and why did you end up with WalkSafe and this purpose that you have?
It really did start probably with my own personal experiences. And I think that having the birth of my daughter kind of crystallised so much for me. And it was actually being on a family holiday with, you've met Andrew, my father-in-law, because we're a family-run business. And we were just discussing kind of our lives and, you know, the sort of thing I went through when I was younger, taking myself to school and just being a girl, those experiences, and they just couldn't relate. I remember we were away and we were having a glass of wine and just chatting over dinner and they were just shocked. And I think it was then when...
What shocked them the most?
Just the stories, and they sound crazy, I think, sometimes, but they become my norm. And there were things that I probably wouldn't have gone home and told my parents. There were just things I got on with. And I kind of, me and my girlfriends, at the time, we would just laugh about it, try and shrug it off. And it wasn't until I got older and I was recalling them that I really realised, wow, actually, from the outside, from a male perspective, that sounds a bit crazy. So Richard, my brother-in-law, who was one of the original founders with me of the app, he's now got a different job, but he was with me and he was like, you know, we need to do something about this. This is just not okay. And that was kind of how the birth of it all was born. It was born off of that conversation. And I think at the time I had my daughter and I just looked at her and I thought, I don't want this for you. I don't want in 10 years time when you're 12, which is when it started for me, this just to be your norm. And then I don't want to mollycoddle you and smother you and then not allow you to have life experiences. We need to change society's perspective on this, and we need to change for the better rather than, you know, put a plaster over it.
How did you deal with it then? Like you said, you know, it was in reflection. That you kind of realised those kind of things were inappropriate and unacceptable. How did you deal with it then? How did you and your girlfriends talk about it? How did you discover it was a bigger problem than just you guys experiencing it?
I think, like I said, we kind of just got on with it. I think everyone leads busy lives. Our parents worked. It was a case of no one could take us to school. The route to school was through a bit of a not a very nice park, and at the time we just relied on each other. So the rule of thumb was always you travelled with someone else, you never walked alone. And I think that you kind of use, you know, joking about it or shrugging it off as a coping mechanism.
Was this in London?
Yeah, and I think that now I'm close friends with one of my girlfriends who I went to school with. She actually doesn't live far from me now, and we've both got kids, and we talk about those things. You know, they kind of stay with you, they never leave you. They're always something that you can recall, and it does shape you when you leave the house. And I think that the one thing we're so passionate about with WalkSafe is about prevention and trying to think about your safety before you leave the house and sharing your journey and all those sort of key messages that I talk about all the time. They're really born off of that sort of trying to bring other people into that journey with you, because I felt a really big weight on my shoulders all the time to keep myself safe as a minor, which is a bit crazy because I wouldn't really put all of that on my daughter when she's older. I think that it's up to everyone, it's up to other people in our life. You know, if you're going to meet someone, they're part of that shared journey too. You know, I want to make sure my friend gets home safe, and she'd want to make sure that I get home safely. And my husband would want to know if I'm getting home safely. So with my mum, I think that it's just trying to share that and try to kind of look out for one another. And that's why I talk about the prevention side, because what we don't want in WalkSafe is for it to be in a position where you're in a really bad spot, then you rely on an app or a phone call. You want to try and do something about it before you're in those moments.
And obviously, you know, we take the wider topic, the preventative measures that we're looking at with WalkSafe is one solution. What could I do better?
Good question. I think that in life, just people being, first of all, an active listener is always awesome. Being present in those conversations and trying to understand how it feels and what you could do. I mean, for instance, you know, if you're walking down the road at night, making sure that you're not walking directly behind. You might not even know you're doing it. You know, we all do this. We want to rush, our heads are down, we're texting, just hanging back, being aware. I think as well, the biggest thing for me is if being an active bystander, you know, so you're seeing something. I always say, see something, say something. And I think in life, we all do this. You think, gosh, if I intervene, what could happen to me? What could happen? Could it get worse? Now, I'm not ever saying that someone should put themselves in harm's way, but 9 times out of 10, just by even saying, are you okay? Or do you need any help? Or just pretending you know them. If you're looking at if you can see someone's looking very uncomfortable, and you can tell by someone's body language if a guy won't leave a girl alone, just maybe disrupting that in any way.
Because I have done that before. I have followed someone I thought was at risk because other people were around.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't want, like in that situation, you're a little bit paradox because you're like, I don't want to add to the situation, but I'm like, I know I'm like doing the right thing here. Yeah. Like, I don't want to make her feel worse in that situation by thinking, oh my God, there's so many people following me now. But I still think that's the right thing. I think that's the right thing to do, and I would do that every single time.
100%. And I think I was talking to someone on our team. She's an ex-Met Chief Commissioner. Her name's Maxine. She's incredible. And she always says, in life, you can spot these red flags. And usually perpetrators, they do the same sorts of things, and they act in a way where I think sometimes if you're looking out for it, you could perhaps spot it. But I think even from maybe a guy's perspective, I think you may get a vibe if someone's behaving inappropriately, if they're looking like they won't leave them alone, or they're lurking around, just things like that.
And probably a different vibe from a male's point of view.
Yeah,
because
100%, and maybe what we would see or be aware of. So just intervening in that way could make a huge difference. And at times when I look back at instances where I've had unwanted attention, or I've been in a situation where something's happened, I know people have turned a blind eye. I know people haven't intervened, and what that could have done for me in that moment could have been very different.
Mm-hmm. And so whereabouts are you on the journey at the moment?
We've got a lot of very exciting conversations with some big businesses around duty of care, something I feel quite passionately about now, given the sort of line of work that I'm in. And working on our season 2 of our TalkSafe podcast, which has been wonderful because I've been able to really dig deep into some amazing work that some amazing women are doing. I've had activists and campaigners, a lot of female founders, so it's just been wonderful. And we've also had our events, which was amazing, where we really discussed gender-based violence and some sort of tangible things that people could do to help themselves stay safer. So I think there's so much in the pipeline, and WalkSafe is growing so quickly. We've got new team members, which are amazing. We've got a new developer on board called Andrew, and he's been fantastic. So yeah, I kind of feel sky's the limit. So yeah, it's really exciting.
I'd love to dig in, Emma. So what's it feel like to build a business with such a big purpose? So we talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, and actually we speak to a lot of entrepreneurs where they've maybe been successful, sold a business, and they're using that next chapter actually because they believe now they've got the capital, they've got the time to go and solve a bigger problem, essentially. You're solving this, you're sort of skipping a phase really in the way I look at it. You're actually found this big problem, you're trying to solve it. But is it easy? Is it hard? You know, how do you raise capital for a business that frankly, you know, it's the route to a commercial path isn't, you know, it's not black and white. You know, I'll buy that stock, I sell it.
Yeah.
You know, talk us through, you know, with the next generation of entrepreneurs need to be addressing these big problems. I think you're one of the pioneers, I think, of kind of first-time entrepreneurs trying to do that. Talk us through that.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, some days it's really heavy and really hard, and I don't have anything together, and I'm a mum and I'm trying to balance, and it can be really emotional, and sometimes now I've been in it and I really care, like to the point where, you know, I read the news and it upsets me. Sometimes I've had so many nightmares where I'm, you know, doing all the content and I have to discuss these things, and I'm doing a podcast, and sometimes it does feel really heavy and horrible, and you sometimes have to pull yourself out of that whole, the world's a dark place and everything can be really bad, and try to remember all the good that is going on and how everyone is working for a good cause. But it also has been such an amazing drive, and lovely to have a mission, and lovely to have, and I really feel strongly that everyone on our team, we're a family-run business, and we did not expect for this to ever be where we are now. But at the heart of WalkSafe, I think we all desperately really care about this, and we live, eat, breathe it. It's all, you know. My poor mother-in-law has to put a stop on it whenever I see my father-in-law, because she's like, no more WalkSafe, where it's all we talk about. And it was hard. I remember before, when we were trying to raise investment with you guys, we had put a lot of our own money in, and we were running on vapor. Like, it was getting to the point where we'd all worked so hard, and we were so near the finish line, and we just needed a bit more help to keep going and to then make the next step. And we didn't want to stop. We had such plans. We knew there was a need. We were, you know, the downloads were showing us that. We were having tons of interviews. I knew what we were doing was needed, and you guys came in at such a point where we were literally on our knees and we couldn't have gone any further. But like I said, we didn't want it to end there. I think we would have been crushed. We would have been so genuinely gutted, because it wasn't what any of us wanted, and we were so nearly there. And now we've got some amazing opportunities that I'm not really quite able to talk about yet. But to be able to then reach more people and create something that could be free, that could really help to keep people safer, just knowing that I know I could get there, I just needed a helping hand. So it's tough, and I'd say for any founder, keep going, keep trying. We're so lucky that Mike, our CEO, reached out to you guys, and you saw my vision and could see something in me. And I think that when you genuinely care and, you know, you'll fight for it, I think that will shine through. And I think that just not giving up. I don't know what plan B, there was a lot of plan B discussions, but we would have made it work, but it would have been even harder. So, you know, I'm just really grateful, because
I think when you look at the world, you know, the basic needs of humans, you know, we're at a point now where we are asking ourselves big questions. You know, we're looking at increasing life, you know, life sciences, all these kind of discussions, and this for me sits alongside those as the important societal questions we need to answer. So for us, and I think for everyone on this mission, we're trying to address something which is deeply, deeply important to society.
Yeah. And
for me, that's what we get out of bed for. You know, we get out of bed to try and support bigger problems than, you know, buy this stock, sell this stock.
Yeah.
You know, everything we look at doing, everything we want to do is based on bigger questions, bigger challenges. And you know, yeah, we see it in you. You know, we had this conversation today. Every conversation we have, like you say, is difficult because it's such a sensitive and emotive topic. Yeah. And I always wonder this about mental health. It's like, why do people keep saying, keep talking? What does that mean? It just means that you have it front of mind. And like you said, to the moment where it becomes like Uber, where you sit there and you go, this is how I live my life. That comes through having conversations and having it kind of present.
It's banging that drum all the time.
And embedded in people's mindset that, you know, this is just something I can do. And I think I just love talking to you about it. And
thank you. I could talk your ears off.
I know. I know.
You'll be kicking me out the door. But that's what it needs. It just needs that constant awareness, always talking about it. And it's interesting, I did a talk with the Home Office not long ago, and it was wonderful. I had loads of men who showed up. How can I help? What can I do? And it was wonderful to have that opportunity to speak directly to them. And they said, is it, my wife walks 3 minutes from the train station to her car, but it's quite a dangerous 3 minutes. Does that still count as a journey? And I'm like, yes, it does. Of course it does. At any point, I think we all forget in life that, if you get off a train and then perhaps you've got to walk a 5-minute journey here, then perhaps you get on something else and you've got another 10-minute journey. The journey doesn't end till your keys are through that door. And I think sometimes we forget that those bits in between are where we could be distracted, or where we still need to remember that we're out and about, and just have that awareness about us, and really, like I said before, just let someone know and take those sort of safety precautions.
In my opinion, the awareness of WalkSafe and other safety products has a massive impact on not just the person using it, but also, if every single person knew these kind of things existed, would it deter individuals from committing offences in the first place on the chance that that person they go to has this product? I think, of course, it will. But when it comes to the usage, who are you seeing using it, and kind of what areas do you see that the best feedback's coming from?
So at the moment, given the recent news, our core demographic is probably about 75% women. But we have seen an increase of men, and we are for everybody. Everyone has a right to feel safe on our streets. And we're very fortunate, actually. We've got some amazing case studies at the moment. And I've got a wonderful transgender woman called Kim, who has just been working very closely with us. She gives us all of her wonderful feedback. I've also got another guy who is quite vulnerable, and he gives us his sort of perspectives and where he uses the app the most and what he would like to see from us. And I think in order for us to kind of be better, do better, help more people, we need to be more sensitive to different groups of people, gender minorities, and really understand where their concerns are, how they feel when they're out, what affects them, and really develop from that, because we're only going to get better when we listen to what our users want and listen to their feedback. And I think that's where we need to kind of spend some more time, because I'm just very aware so far we've been primarily women, but I'm very excited to see what the future holds there, because I think that there's a lot more we can be doing, and our case studies have been telling us that we can really further that conversation.
I think this is a great thing. We've talked about this quite a lot in terms of diversity. People's perception of diversity sometimes is male female, but it's not.
No.
Your experience as a female is very different to someone's experience as transgender, which is very someone's experience as a guy. How do you view diversity in business in general?
Oh, welcome it. I just think it's what makes the world go round at the end of the day. I mean, it'd be boring if we were kind of all the same. And I learn the most from different people with different backgrounds. I welcome it, and I wish more. I wish we had a bigger team, and I'd love to hear from some different voices, because I think they could bring a whole new fresh perspective to WalkSafe. At the moment, we are a small company that, because it's a family-based company, obviously we're white British, so I feel that just having different backgrounds could be awesome. People from different sort of genders, like you said, would be awesome. I just think that I've talked all I can about my side, and I think in order for WalkSafe to be better, we need to hear from other people, and that I don't know how they live their life, what concerns they've got, but I know that we need to hear them. So I feel that the only way I think we can grow properly is to be more diverse, to hear their stories and to learn from them and incorporate their concerns back into the app, really.
In terms of like partners, for me, I think these are huge problems. You need to come together with partners to really solve them. Who are the best partners for WalkSafe? Who do you want to connect to?
I'm very open to who we could talk to, but I just need them to share my vision. I need them to understand I won't compromise on my morals or things I see for the business for any amount of money. Being free for everyone and us having the same sort of moral compass, because I think ultimately that's where we're going to do well, is if our ethos is strong and we're all aligned and we're moving in the same way. I just think that's what my users want. They want me to be genuine and authentic, and I can't do that if I'm going to want to partner with someone who doesn't align with me and my values. So I'll quite happily be open, but if it doesn't work, I'm not going to force it. And I've already so far kind of had that, where I just thought, okay, it was one meeting, didn't really go that well. First one I've ever had that didn't, and I thought, okay, but do you know what? I don't think we're going to be aligned, and I want someone who's going to do the right thing. And if you don't want to do that, you want to ignore a problem, well, that's up to you, it's your business, but that's not how we roll. Integrity
and values, it comes down to, you strip everything back, and we've talked conversations about this around everyone, you strip everything back to the bare people. All you're doing in business is hiring a bunch of people and sitting in a room together and sharing a vision. And when you work with people, all you can do is kind of your vision with their vision, and if it intersects and goes on the same path together and reaches a great journey together, then that's all you can do. And it's all we've got. All we've got is our word.
Exactly.
Previous guests have had on talk about planting that flag at the North Pole or at the summit of where they've achieved. For you, what is that aim?
I'd love to see us make a societal change. I think that I'd really like to be able to help people from the ground up and make sure the people who are needing the app the most, the people who are travelling late from work, doing those antisocial hours, I think, that sort of pole in the ground moment for me is not as much of a kind of corporate or winning something or an award. For me, it's really about if we can change people's lives for the better, if we can help that one person, and if we can start to change people's perspectives and attitudes around safety, where people are taking safety seriously and they are sharing their journeys and doing these things before they leave the house, like we would order an Uber, just that, making it an everyday thing. For me, that's real success.
Do you think it's possible to have a world where there's no more Sarah Everyard moments?
I think there's too much we still need to do. I think that the things that are going to really make the most change are going to be the things that take the most time. We need legislative change. We need to be talking about consent within education. Those are all sorts of medium and long-term things, and things that I think could have the greatest impact. So I suppose for now, all I feel like I can do is keep raising awareness, keeping the pressure on people, and trying to encourage people to take those sort of short-term steps now, like downloading our free app. And
so kind of, trying to avoid those random moments, because they can, and those little things can end up putting you into some bigger situations. Yeah. Could have easily have not been Sarah.
Yeah.
But it was always going to be someone.
Yeah.
It's about reducing the opportunity of those situations occurring.
100%. And I think that these things, they take time. And I think, sadly, what we've seen is every time there's been a tragic case, there's been a spike in downloads and people rush out to take action and want to put things in place to help themselves feel safer. And then, as you can imagine, it becomes old news and then it pieces off again. And we just keep seeing this. And what I would love for it to be is it's something that everyone thinks about before they leave the house, and it becoming more stable and just changing the public's perception of all that.
Because my mum grew up in Leeds, going to university there around the time the Yorkshire Ripper was very active, and I had conversations with her about what it was like for her to be at university. And obviously when you're in a heightened sense, people are much more prevalent, but it's the attitude which you kind of probably have is that it's not going to happen to me.
Yes, 100%.
So when things are intense and things are high and things are on a bit of a spree, everyone's a bit like, okay, I'm on vigilant. But it's the lottery situation where, it's not going to happen. It's like statistically, it's not going to happen to you. Statistically. However, statistically, it's going to happen to someone, and that someone could be you.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure that all the time you are making the choices the best for you.
Yeah, totally. And I think that even just little things like just listening to your gut and being aware of maybe a room when you walk through it, where the exit, just being, and it just makes me so sad that we even need to be having these conversations, because, you know, wouldn't I love for us to live in a world where we didn't have to think this way? Of course I would. But I think that the more you can just be alert and kind of listen to yourself when something feels wrong, or if you feel uncomfortable, I think that's just vital.
Yeah. And to your point about having these conversations, I think we're in a situation now where we've got technology to be able to support and to stop this happening as frequently as it does, and to a point where hopefully in the future we can eradicate it. Yeah. So, you know, as we love your mission, because you're now doing something about, you're putting tools and things in place for people to be able to stop this happening, because, like you say, I asked you if we could ever stop it. The feeling's probably not. Yeah. It's something that's always happened, has always existed, and there's going to have to be huge ramifications of this whole society to change stuff that's happening. What we can do is really help people from it not being them.
Yeah, exactly. And giving people those tools within their toolbox. You know, I always say we're a very minute part of the solution, and I'm very aware that, you know, what might work for one person, it might not for the other. Someone might prefer a self-defense class. The other person might not even feel it's necessary. There's always different things out there for different people. But I think as long as we can even get that conversation going and, you know, keep beating that drum, I think it's crucial.
It's this shared ownership point you made at the beginning, right? It's shared responsibility for those journeys. It's not just you being responsible for it. And I think having technology that enables the sharing of that ownership, I think is, really exciting.
Yeah, me too. I think there's going to be some really exciting new developments and partnerships, hopefully, that we'll be working on. So I feel like watch this space with WalkSafe in the next 6 months.
Thank you, Emma. It's always a pleasure to sit and talk to you about WalkSafe and the vision you share.
Thank you so much. That was lovely.
And thank you for listening. Check out WalkSafe, download it. It's a free app. Tell your girlfriends, tell your boyfriends, tell everyone about it. And let us know what you thought of the episode.